boys, boys, boys. We've got 2 boys, and the boys love football. Boys love football, especially Colton. Colton eats, drinks, sleeps. He breathes football. The first thing, you know those golden retrievers, those dogs, I think they're golden retrievers. What are those dogs that run after you all the time? And it's like they've just got a ball in their mouth and they're like, will you just throw it for me? We need to get one of those things that, where you hold it and you throw the ball. He runs around with the football all the time. Will you throw it with me? Will you throw it with me? So last season was his second season of flag football, and he was so excited about it. He was so looking forward to it. He worked so hard. He was so diligent. He got out there and he went to practice, and then they had their first game. And they were doing so well and all the rest of it, and he lost. And it was just it was so deflating for him. He was like, how did this happen? I worked so hard. I did all that I could, and I got out there, and then I lost the game. And so you sit down with him, and you have the little pep talk, and you tell him about the whole big story about life and how life's not all about winning and blah, blah, blah. You know the story. You've all done it. And anyway, it worked really well for the first week, and when the motivation was good, and he was pumped up, and he was ready for the next week, and he worked harder, and he trained harder, and he did all the rest of it, and he went out there, and he played his little heart out like he's never played before. He pulled flags left, right, and he did flying dives. He was like, and he lost. Again. So now you have to kind of reinvent the pep talk a little bit. And so you try it again from a slightly different angle this time, and it kind of works, but then you got to be careful. Anyway, the third week arrived, and off he went, and they lost again. It was a terrible season. It was a terrible season. He had, for a variety of reasons. But the sad part about it was, he's got like this little heart of a champion. And he went out there, and his ambition and his drive and his desire was to win. That's what he wanted to do. I don't want to hear the story about, it's all about playing the game and fun and whatever. I want to win. That's what he wants to do. And he went out there, and it was the hardest season ever because all the games that they played, I think he only won 1. And that was tough, and it was hard. And you sit there, and you get to the end of the season with him, and you can just see it's like the most important thing in his life. The thing that is so passionate to him is the very thing that's most deflating in his life. Because no matter how hard he tried, no matter how hard he worked, he just couldn't get over that hurdle. So while we were away, I was busy lying around thinking a little bit, and that came back to me, and I thought about it. I don't know about you, but I don't know what it was. 2013 seemed like the most terrible year. It just seemed like one challenge after the next. And I thought, you know what? I cannot wait. I'm not a big celebrator of New Year's Eve. This was one New Year's Eve I was happy to celebrate and get rid of. And we got rid of 13, and we got into 14, and you know what? We hit it running with a full-on, and we were going, and then it started all over again. And I don't know why. This year seems even worse than last year. The whole thing about seasons is true in the Bible. Because I've come to realize when challenges come, you don't end up with a challenge that arrives in single file. They don't kind of line up so that as they arrive, you can kind of pot them off and take care of that and the next one comes. Every time you turn around, have you ever noticed there's a challenge coming from everywhere? And everywhere you look, it's like, and you're just trying to sort this one out, and you're getting it sorted out, and this one's coming up from this side, and then you don't have a third hand to take care of that one that's on its way as well. And sometimes life is like that. The funny thing about life is, the things that are really, really rotten, you never have to work at. Is there anyone here that's ever really had to work hard to worry? It just comes naturally. It's not a difficult thing. How is it that it's so simple to have anxiety? How come that it's not difficult at all to be in a situation where you have financial challenges? Why is it that the biggest issues in life, the things that confront us, are so easy? And yet the things that are most meaningful to us, the things that we value and the things that we really work towards and we strive and want to be a part of our life are the things that we find so difficult to attain. There is always a challenge that comes in front of it. Your marriage, hopefully, is one of the most important things to you. It doesn't matter about that. You're always going to have challenges in your marriage. Why doesn't it just come like anxiety? Why isn't it easy? It doesn't. Think about your relationships with your kids. Think about your work situation. It doesn't matter where you are. Think about trying to get free time, because those are moments that you value, times where you can take it and invest it with your loved ones. And all the things in life, the things that we value, the things that are important, are things that there seems to be an onslaught against all the time. There's always a case of us challenging it and having to fight against it. Why is that? And sometimes in life, we get to the end of seasons, or we're in seasons, and we get deflated because our heart gets burdened and gets heavy because things don't seem to get easier. And I'm passionate about it. I love it. I want to be a champion. I want to be an overcomer. I want to get to that place. But I can't always make heads or tails of it. And so these were the complexities that I was thinking about. And I was reading some literature and getting some ideas on some things, and suddenly a whole bunch of stuff began to fall into place. Stuff that I knew and stuff that I'd heard before, but suddenly it just took on a whole new perspective and a different context for me. And I began to realize part of the difficulty that I find in situations, particularly if you end up with such a deluge of challenges coming at once, is you sit there and you say, where do I go to from here? Can I clearly define what's actually happening? Things seem to get murky and they get gray, and it becomes so difficult because all the waters are muddied. And I'm trying to actually sit and say, where is God in this? And how am I supposed to manage this? And how am I supposed to pray about this? What am I supposed to do in this situation? How do I move forward so that I have clarity and reassurance, so that I have a confidence within myself that I know the path that I should be taking? And I don't always have that. Why is that so hard? Why isn't it easier than it should be? I think sometimes when we get into those situations, our natural inclination is to get involved in something. So we sit and say, well, what I perhaps need to do is I need to go and start reading a little bit more. So I start spending more time in my Bible, and I start getting into, reading a book about it. Or I decide, actually what I need to do is let's go and turn on Christian television. Forget the nightly news. We're going to do Christian television now. Or I'll go off to a seminar, or I try to equip myself because I want to get to a place where I feel as though I have what it takes and I have within me the enabling to be able to deal with the challenges and move ahead. My heart is in that place and my desire is to be there, but it's not always easy. And sometimes I look at the situations that confront me and I find it difficult to be able to locate God in what's going on. And I kind of sit and I wonder to myself, well, where actually is he? Is God with us, or is he a little bit absent? Is he conspicuously absent? Why is that? And there is a biblical truth that is so powerful and so profound. And yet it starts off with a simple question, or a simple reality, that things aren't always what they seem. And things in life aren't always the way that they appear. Let me give you an example. Remember Adam and Eve in the garden. And they're going around and they're enjoying themselves and they're having a good time and they're champions and they're reigning and they have dominion and all the rest of it. And the next thing they know, there's a bit of temptation and they eat an apple. They eat an apple. So they nibbled on a bit of fruit. But yet it was so much more than that. It was so much more it was so much more profound. Why? Because it cost them their authority. It cost them their dominion. Things are not always what they seem. Paul on the road to Damascus, and suddenly he sees a light and he falls to the ground. Big deal. Have a guy who's a little bit wobbly on his steed and falls off. And yet in an instant, his heart is changed from one of hatred and malicious intent to one that is characterized by love. In an instant, the very thing that drives him, his ambition and his desire to get out and to destroy the Christian church, to destroy Christians and to destroy any semblance of Christ in any representation, is instantly changed. And in a moment, he finds himself that the very thing that was the driving force in his life suddenly becomes the enemy. In fact, it's so consequential in his life that his name changes from Saul to Paul. Things aren't always what they seem. Jesus, a good man, and the crucifixion. So we have a man who dies on the cross. And yet, as a result of the death, we have the ability to have relationship with God once again. As a result of the death, man is restored once again to God. Things are not always what they seem. What are you going through in your life today? What are the things that confront you? What are the things that you grapple with and that you deal with inside yourself? Are they just what they seem, or is there more to the equation? In John 10:10, there's a scripture that we all know, and we use very often, and we talk about it. And the scripture says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." Now, there are a couple of things I want to talk about in this. The first thing is this. Let's notice that Jesus is talking. So Jesus says, I want you to know something. The first thing that I want you to know is that there are two clear parties that we need to speak about. First of all, there's me, and there's a somebody else. And the somebody else is called the thief. They're the two of us. Okay? So we're suddenly getting an idea that we have differing camps. We have two conflicting parties. Won't you please put that up again? And then he says, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. So he begins to give us a description of the nature of each one of those individuals. He says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. The thief only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. What is he saying to us? He's saying to us, in the world that we find ourselves in the challenges that confront us, in everything that we have to deal with in life, we need to be aware of the fact that there is a reality that's more fundamental that is taking place. There is a reality to our lives that we may not always be that conscious of, and yet it has a significant influence in our lives. We are part of a game that has to do with life and death. And we are participants in that. Sorry, I'm not really speaking very well today. We are participants in that, whether we choose to be or not. Whether we realize that we are participants or not. The Bible says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Perhaps the inclination and perhaps the suggestion being made is that we go through life not being able to see what is clearly taking place in our lives. We're not able to discern what is happening. We're not able to realize the fundamentals that are taking place. We're so consumed with the situation and the circumstance. We're so overrun and we're so aware of the situations that we're giving no consideration to the greater fundamentals that are at place, that are working, that are operating. What Jesus is saying to us is this. If you want to get a better indication as to what is in operation in your life and where that's coming from, have a look at the description of the nature of those two things. If what is in your life is stealing from you, is killing, and is destroying goodness of life, the suggestion is that that comes from the thief. If you have something in your life that is adding value to your life, that is good, that is rewarding, that is loving, that has to do with growth, that has to do with benefit, that has to do with enabling, that has to do with provision, that has to do with healing, that has to do with restoration, It has to do with life in abundance. So it gives us a little bit of a clue and enables us to some degree to begin to discern what is happening in our lives and what is happening with those situations. I think what Jesus is saying to us is this: the offer for life is here. The offer for life is available to you. Everything that you need to live that life has been paid for and is available to you. But you're going to have to fight for it. Because there is a reality at play here. There is an enemy who has an agenda different to mine. And the enemy's agenda is to steal, kill, and destroy what I'm trying to make available to you. So what is the implication for us? The implication is that perhaps there is a place for us to come to where we realize that not everything has to do with God. That I have a fundamental role to play in all of this. Maybe there is more to my role and what I need to do, as opposed to just sitting praying all the time saying, God, please do it, God, please do it, God, please do it. And he's sitting saying, I've done it. The problem's not me. There is another party at play here. There is another reality that you need to be aware of. And unless you can confront that reality, you'll never move into the fullness of life that I have provided for you, that I've prepared for you. Why? Because the thief is stealing from you. His idea is to take it away from you and to destroy it. So what makes you so consequential? Why is it that you think old Forkfoot is after you? What is it that you've done? Good question. It goes back to actually beyond the beginning of time. But we get an inkling and we get the beginnings of an understanding if we go back and we have a look at when God created Adam and Eve. Because it gives us an understanding as to what God's design was. If you turn to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. Let's do verse 27 first. Verse 27 says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. What is that telling us? It's telling us a couple of things. One of the translations says, he created man in his nature. In his nature. Remember, this was before Adam and Eve have fallen. So God's design is to sit and say, you know what? I'm going to create man in my image, in my nature, to be a reflection of me. A reflection of me. John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come to give life in its abundance. The war that's at play is between the thief and the Godhead. That's what's happening. But you know what happened? Lucifer was defeated and he was thrown out of heaven. So he couldn't deal with God anymore because he was already defeated. So what did he do? He sat and had a look at at mankind, and what did he say? There it is. There is the image of God. There is the reflection of God in mankind. So what'll I do? I'll take who I am and I will target it against human beings, against you, against the reflection, against the image of God that is within each one of you. Let's read verse 28. Verse 28 says, then God blessed them and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. What was he saying? He was saying, I am giving you life of a superior nature. I'm giving you life of abundance. That's what he was saying to Adam and Eve. There you go. I'm blessing you. I'm giving it to you. And then he says, after he's given them, he says, go and subdue. Why did he say that? If you look at the original Hebrew word for subdue, it means bring into subjection. Bring into subjection. Well, if he's just created Adam and Eve and he said to them, here is everything that I have available to you, here is abundant life, go and enjoy it, why in the very next breath does he say to them, take it and bring it to subjection? What? What is he bringing into subjection? There is a reality on God's part where he knows. And he's sitting saying, it's not just me that you need to be aware of. You need to understand that the thief is out there. And what he was saying to them was, you have my life as part of who you are. I am giving you the authority to subdue it. I am giving you dominion. That's what he gave Adam and Eve. And it was as a result of the authority that he gave them that they were able to subdue the thief, the one who came to steal, kill, and destroy, or wanted to steal, kill, and destroy everything that God had provided for them. He gave them the authority to bring it under subjection. What was Lucifer after? He wanted the authority. He wanted the dominion. Because if he took it away from man, you'd never be able to subdue him. He would have free will. That's what he was trying to do. So Jesus comes into the picture, and Jesus comes and Jesus dies. And Jesus defeats Satan, and what does he take back from Satan? He takes back from Satan the authority. And what does he do? He says, all authority has been given unto me. Now I give it back to you. The reality is this. The fight that we're in is a fight that the thief is waging against you because he recognizes that within you is the potential to once again subdue him. Within you is the authority and the power to be able to subdue him. But if he can keep you away from that, if he can keep you at a place where you never realize that and you never recognize that, you will be impotent in your Christian walk. What he did was Jesus came back and he said, you know what? I'm giving you back your commission. I'm bringing back the original commission to you. And what I'm giving to you is the power to go out and once again subdue the thief. Until we come to a place where we begin to realize that the context of our lives is one of warfare, we will spend our lives not being able to clearly understand what is taking place in our lives. What is clearly taking place to us on many occasions, because the waters get all muddied and we can't define it and we can't see whether it's me or whether it's a situation or what God is doing in the mix. Until we come to a place where we recognize that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, we never put ourselves in a place where we're able to interpret accurately what is happening to us, because we discount it. And we have churches and we have Christians all across the world who spend their lives surrendering to the idea that everything is God's will. Because you know what? If I cannot discern it, and I just capitulate to the idea that whatever God wants, God will make happen, I put myself in a place where I have no power and I have no authority. And I'm in a wonderful place as far as the thief is concerned, because he will steal you blind. Not only will he steal you blind, you know what will end up happening? You'll begin to question your relationship with God. And you'll end up at a place where you'll start wondering where God is in your life. How come it is that I'm dealing with so much stuff? How come that I never seem to be able to get to the other side? How come things are so hard for me? How come things are such a challenge? It's God's responsibility, because it's all His will. And what happens? He closes down our relationship with God. He kills our relationship with God. And before we know it, we find ourselves in a place where we not only are powerless, but we no longer have relationship. When we come to a place where we understand that the context of our life is warfare, it gives us clarity. It gives us the ability to understand things. part of what we need is we need the ability to be able to see. The Bible talks about opening the eyes of our understanding. Why is it talking about opening the eyes of our understanding? Because our eyes are so consumed with what we're facing. Our eyes are so consumed with the challenges and the reality. And my mother-in-law who's an ogre, and my wife who spends her life shouting at me, and the kids who run around like crazy people, and my boss who refuses to promote me, and my bank manager who's screaming at me, and the prices at the store going up, and my salary that's going down. And I'm so consumed with everything else that I don't recognize the fact that there is a deeper reality to my existence. If the eyes of our understanding were opened, it would put us in a very different place. Won't you have a quick look at 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 16. It says, therefore we do not lose heart. Therefore we do not lose heart. There are too many people losing heart. There are too many people who are losing heart because their life is too difficult, because their life is a challenge, because their life is a continual onslaught in many different areas. And I'm never really able to find clear definition as to which way I should be going and how I should be dealing with the situation. And the problem with it is, after a period of time, I become disillusioned and I lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is not unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Do you want to not lose heart? God tells you right there. If you want to not lose heart, do you know how you do it? Fix your eyes on things that are eternal. Take your eyes off things that are temporary. Put your eyes on things that are eternal. What God is saying to you is, wake up. He's saying to you, be aware. I am here. I have everything that I offer to you. The thief is there, and he's come to steal, kill, and destroy. You need to be discerning. You need to have eyes that are opened. You need to have eyes that are able to see. You need to be at a place where you're able to offer spiritual discernment as to what's going on. Where you sit and say, you know what? I thank you, Father. I'm going to take that and I'm going to make it a part of my life because it's good and it's wholesome and it's wonderful. And it grows my capacity for living and my love for you. But I'm not going to let that in my life. Because that's not from Him. And that's come to steal my finances and my health and my well-being and my peace of mind. We need to be at a place where we understand and the eyes of our understanding is opened. Because when we can see things for what it clearly is, when we have spiritual insight and understanding, it puts us in a place where we're not worried about the momentary afflictions. I have a perspective that is different. I have a perspective that is large. I have a perspective that is spiritually charged. The story of our lives is the story of the attack against our heart and who Jesus made provision for us to be. Because the thief knows if you come into contact with that, if you for a moment have a glimpse and a realization of the full potential that exists within you, it'll change your life forever. And it'll change your circumstances and your existence. It'll change your perspective on the way that you live and the way that you approach life and the way that you approach your circumstances and the way that situations, when they come against you, the way that you tackle them and deal with them. Keep your eyes off the momentary afflictions. Open the eyes of our understanding. The thief goes around as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's looking, he's on the prowl. He's an opportunist. We need to be discerning. We need to be spiritually alive and awake so that we recognize what's going on in our lives. We're able to interpret it correctly and accurately, and we're able to respond in a way that is meaningful and that is spiritually charged and takes care of the situation.